Still very dry.
I'm gonna share my screen real quick. I was just looking at RE Colorado again. Here's the same thing we've been seeing just consistently week after week. 500 new listings in the last 7 days. Almost 1,500 listings under contract in the last 7 days. Does anybody know what our inventory, the weeks of inventory we have right now? I guess, does anybody know what a balanced market is? How many months of inventory do we usually have for a balanced market?
Forgot.
No idea.
6 months. We should have 6 months of inventory, right? We have 3 weeks of inventory.
Yikes.
Right. So that means if we didn't get another listing, we'd be out of homes to sell in the next 3 weeks.
Wow.
Right. It's definitely heading in the I mean, we closed 1,000 in the last 7 days and had 500 active. I mean, we're definitely depleting inventory. Anybody focusing on new builds and trying to get their clients in new builds?
Yeah, what new builds do you work with? Because I've heard some of them try to steer customers away, and well, I mean, I guess that doesn't matter if you have a contract first.
Yeah, it does. You could have a contract and they could not give you the commission. You just have to be there or have them register you as their agent when they go there. So that's the biggest key. And if you're not there when they go and register, then they don't have to pay you. So if they go by themselves and they don't acknowledge you, then you won't get paid.
Yeah, I went with my
You-
client, and the guy had her fill out the sheet and then took it without putting me in there, even though I was there. So, yeah,
Sneaky.
yep. So,
Have you, Jared, noticed that Richmond Home only offers 2% to agents now?
Yeah. Yep. You know, I mean, what are we gonna do? I mean, we can't bark about it, can't fight about it. You know, I mean, I mean, to be honest, new builds are one of the easiest transactions for us. You know, once it's under, it is what it is. Anybody use the new build on RE Colorado? I don't know if everybody knew it, but right down here it says new home source. This is where the new builds are.
Oh.
So if you want to just search new builds in RE Colorado, it's right here. You just turn all these off, and then it'll bring up just the new builds.
Oh, nice.
I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah. So
And
so
when you
this would-
send when you send a personalized home search to someone's email, is it possible then to only send them new builds?
yeah,
Because
yep,
I have a client who only wants a new build.
Yep, and so that's where you would want to do is just click all the rest of these off. And I don't know if you guys realize this too, but this is where we basically have the other MLSs. Here's RE Colorado Denver. This is Central Colorado. This is Steamboat Springs, and this is Northern Colorado. So you have access to search all those areas as well. I was talking to somebody the other day. Not typing. What am I looking up? New builds. I think it's called New Home Source, or what is it called? Yeah, New Home Source. This is another great website that I find a lot of new homes. I think there's like 276 builders in Colorado. I mean, in Denver. So this is another great source to zoom into the areas that people want new builds to share communities.
Awesome.
It's called newhomesource.com.
Mhm.
There's no competition. They might be on a waiting list, but at least you don't have to kill yourself or your client trying to get into a property. I've got one that closes in December. I need a paycheck in December, so I'm okay with that. I also get to say all year long I have one under contract.
So Jared,
Yeah.
when we customize a search for a client, are we sending it from the MLS or from our
It's
home
up to
site?
you. It's up to you. I mean, even you know, just using some of these, you can pull these out independently, you know, and send them just the links on any of these sending the URL to them, So I think it's just depends on the client and the circumstance. In Sync, we don't always have access to the same, the same new build source. So I think it's case by case. I set up multiple. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing both. Here's existing homes. I mean, to be honest, I'd rather get an existing home under contract because I know that it closes in 30 days. So, having them search new builds and actively looking at existing homes, kind of gives you more chances to win. Anybody trying anything new lately as far as trying to get contracts? Anybody have any luck?
Not yet. Today is my day of cold calling. So today I'm gonna spend hours trying to convince property owners to let it go.
What's the struggle these days with selling?
Hey, Jared, I can tell you guys something that really worked for me was I took your advice, been taking a lot of classes. So we're not showing. But I love HomeSpark. Is that what it's called? Something
InfoSparks?
InfoSpark. So,
Right here?
all my clients that that I've only connected once maybe, or I have an idea, they've either emailed me or send me a quick text message. So I'll go in here based on what they're looking for in the areas, and I'll send them a quick thing about, which areas have appreciated it the most in the last 3 years.
Right.
And I've been getting a lot of feedback. So it just is one other thing you can do to show your professionalism, I guess.
There you go. Separate yourself. I like it.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't used InfoSparks, it's definitely one of my favorite things too. It's right here when you log into your RE Colorado account. If you have a listing, one of my two favorite things is obviously days in the MLS. And then also showings to pending, meaning how many showings can your seller expect before it goes under contract. So I think that this is a great stat to share with your sellers. I like the fact that Akila, you're using it for your buyers though too,
I use the, I think it's closed price and then median price point. And if they're looking for a single family residence, I'll go in there. And
Right.
if they're looking in Denver, I'll go by zip code. All the properties that they've liked or looked at by zip code in Denver, and that's what I'll do. And I'll send them multiple charts if there's a lot of areas in Denver. But I did get a list by there. They have a home here. They live in Washington, and I've talked to them twice. So they're, because I'm sending these information, they're really confident in going with me. So I did pick up a couple of buyers too.
I like it.
And
I like it.
I think this had a lot to do with it because, you're trying to send them, just kind of stand out from other agents and try to send them relevant information.
Totally. Well, and here's the thing, there's two types of people, those that appreciate the data and want it, and then those that appreciate it but won't look at it, don't even know what it means. So I think either way they're going to appreciate it. Oh wow, I don't know what this means, but it looks good.
So I try to explain to them what, and then so even if they don't look at it, they know what I'm sending them.
Right. I mean, look at this. Just from January of last year, we went from 410 as an average in the MLS to 445. So I mean, we're seeing huge increases. I mean, what do we expect the summer is going to bring? Anybody?
Hopefully, listing.
Well, we'll get more listings, but what are we going to get even more of? More buyers, right? And I think the biggest struggle is everybody's leases are coming to end. This is the time of year where leases start coming to end and people want to get into those homes. Sarah and I were talking the other day, how do you work that timing? If we're struggling with getting offers accepted, what's typically required when somebody has to either renew or cancel their lease? How many days out do they have to do that?
30 days.
It's usually 60 days.
Oh.
Right. You know, so if they have to give an advance notice, hey, we're gonna stay or we're gonna go, you know, we really only have a couple weeks of actually showing and getting them under contract before they have to make the decision whether or not just to stay in their apartment.
Mhm.
So I think it's gonna be a tough summer.
Hey, Jared, I did have a question for you. So I had one sync client ask me when is a good time to buy, and I mean, I told her in a normal, pandemic-free situation or time, it would be right now, right?
Right.
In the winter, up to like May, it's usually in May where, kids are getting off school, and that's when prices start increasing, and just the level of buyers also increase. So, but is there any way that I can look that up? Because I looked, InfoSpark doesn't offer that. So do you know of any?
I guess as far as when the better time to buy is,
Well, I mean, where you can actually go back and look and see. I mean, I try to play around with InfoSpark. I sent her a few things as far as price and closed listings in the last 3 years, and it kind of gives you how many listings increase certain times of the month, right?
right.
Because it does go back till 2018. But it's kind of vague though, because they have to click on the line in order to kind of see which month they're.
Right. Well, here's what's, I mean, here's I think the thing that we have to remind everybody is what direction is the appreciation heading for, up, to where when's the best time to buy? Yesterday. So really, I
Yeah.
mean, you're not going to get a price that you saw yesterday, and if you want to wait 6 months, if you're looking at a $400,000 house, 10% appreciation, that'd be 40,000 in a year. You wait 6 months, that $400,000 house is now 425. The longer you wait, the more you're going to price yourself out. The thing that I also like to remind them is, hey, if we're not seeing anything that you like now, we're going to see even less later because it's going to be more expensive too. So the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost you. The longer you wait, the less of a home you're going to be able to buy. So waiting isn't going to benefit you in this market.
I don't know if anybody else here heard about how, where we should expect the median price point to raise about to 700 to 800,000 in the next 5 years. Have you heard that?
Well, and what's it doing already? I mean, we're over Metro Denver's over 600, over six. I think it's around 640 now. It was under 600, and that was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, I wrote an offer the other day, $600,000 house by Sloan's Lake, list price 600. We went in at 660 with an appraisal waiver, and still ended up fourth in line, and it went for 685, so 85,000 over ask.
Nuts.
Right. So what's the new comp as soon as that closes? That house.
Mhm.
Right. So it's setting the bar. I mean, every time we sell a house every month, it's just going to keep driving it higher and higher. It is not easy. It's good to be a seller. I think the biggest struggle, I think why we're going to see less listings is because you can't buy what you own.
Right.
The house you own right now is going to be better than what you're going to find at an increased price.
Yeah.
And I think sellers are going to go out there and look and be like, wait, I don't want any of this.
Mhm.
I'm going to stay in my house is better than me spending more on a house that I don't even want.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a big struggle. I think new builds is kind of where we kind of have to spend our time focusing.
Okay.
Stack them up.
Do you think there'll be a correction though?
I don't think we can catch up to it. I
Okay.
think new builds are building as fast as they can, but still, it just, they can't keep up with it.
Lumber costs are 3 times since the beginning of the pandemic as well.
Right. Has anybody encountered any I guess metro districts? Anybody familiar with them? Know what they're doing with, what kind of just taking place with metro districts? No.
I
What do you
have
mean?
a friend that works for Denver County, and he told me that Denver is changing a lot of their zoning laws, where If you live in a home, you can actually rent part of your house and make it an income property, and you can change the zoning on that. So
Right.
they are being a lot more flexible. I don't know. He called it something. I don't remember.
You know
But
I guess what I'm referring to in metro districts is the taxation, we're used to having an HOA, a community having an HOA and then having standard taxations, where now they're doing metro districts where they're rolling the cost of infrastructure, streets, utilities, all of that into a metro district that's being taxed to the actual purchaser. So the buyer of homes now are being, seeing, 2%, 2% on purchase price for their taxes. We're talking $1,000 a month in taxes. So I would be mindful and watch out when you start helping new builds and your buyers. I guess the reason that we're doing that is as an incentive for more builders. They don't have to front the cost of the infrastructure. Now they can tax the buyers for the infrastructure. So I think it's a benefit to the new build, and it's a benefit to the city and counties, because they're having builders in there and building out and increasing increasing inventory at a lesser cost for the builder. So it just
They're
doesn't.
going to be an extra $1,000 a month in taxes.
What's that?
They're going to be spending an extra $1,000 in property taxes a month.
In these metro districts, yeah, they're that 2% of purchase price, our average purchase price $5 to $1 million, 2% of 500,
How
you're
is
at
someone afford an extra $1,000 in addition to HOA and their mortgage payment?
Well, they can't. That's exactly the point, though, is that they're going to price themselves out of even the opportunity. So I have a client that wanted to buy in Sterling Ranch, which is down kind of by Roxborough. The taxes were $1,200 a month. I mean, yeah, $1,200 a month, which obviously dropped their purchase capabilities. We went into actual Roxborough Park, bought one of the new builds that has standard taxing, where their taxes are around $5,500 a year. To where they could buy $1 million property at that point. So I would just be mindful when you're out with new builds.
I mean, I see that when reunions start popping up, the tax is like so much higher than coming down to Green Valley Ranch or something. So
Well, and not only that, they're flexible, they're adjusting too. So these metro districts can increase, and obviously their goal is to decrease the tax, right? Okay, we have all the infrastructure, we've built all the homes in the community, let's decrease the taxes. Well, if they actually can't, well, then they increase them. If we aren't building at the rate that we need or want, they have to keep increasing the taxes on these communities. So I would just be mindful of it. Hey, let's jump in and get started. Anybody have anything else they want to chat about? I do, I guess. Today, I guess what I wanted to bring up was kind of conversational pieces that we kind of little nuggets that we can throw in that help separate us from our peers. I like Akila, bringing stats to it. I think helps separate us. But I think in the conversation, if I'm prospecting or I'm working leads or I'm talking to somebody face to face, even, these are some of the things that I've used or I've seen used to help kind of, grow their confidence in me, but also, throw question marks in their own mind, like, hey, well, what does that mean? Oh, wait, I've never heard that before. Or, what are some of the things in the conversations we should be including? Here's where I was thinking as far as local expert. I think it's imperative. I think everybody, especially sellers, want to know that their community, right? Oh, I'm a local expert in that area. Oh, I'm very familiar with Roxborough Park. I think being a local expert is something that people want to hear. It just so happens I'm a local expert anywhere you happen to be looking. No matter where you're selling, no matter where you're looking, I happen to be a local expert. So I think it's imperative just reminding somebody that you are an expert in that particular area. Anybody have any go-to lines that they share with people in regard to just being an expert? I think that's pretty simple. I think I just say I'm an expert every time. Somebody says, "Well, I'm looking at Arvada." Oh my gosh, I'm an expert in Arvada.
I do tons of business in Arvada.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Oh, well, actually, we're thinking Westminster. Oh my gosh, I'm an expert in Westminster too. Right. I I think, you know, one of the other ones that's kind of tied to being the local expert is you know, the areas of real estate. You know, am I an expert in, or do I specialize in all types of real estate? If somebody's looking at rural property, I may not have experience with rural properties, but I always specialize in it, right? Oh my gosh, I specialize in rural property. Oh, I specialize in what are common use properties, or just townhomes, condos. I think these two are kind of hand in hand, areas of real estate and then local expert. I specialize in any area or any type of property that somebody's looking at. What if I don't feel confident? What are some of the things that we can do to grow confidence, you know, in those two kind of areas? I think Akila gave us the best example. I usually, while I'm on the phone or I'm prospecting, I'll pull up somebody's area. I'll pull up the community. You know, if I get a lead that gives me an address, I'll pull up and find out what neighborhood it is, and then not say, hey, looks like your house is in Arvada. No, hey, it looks like your house is in, you know, Sterling Ranch. You know, I'll speak to the actual specific community. Oh my gosh, you have a rural property. You know, what's the biggest difference between rural properties and suburban properties?
Amount of buyers.
I'm going to say well and septic. Right, and that's really the biggest difference between rural properties and you know, urban properties. You know, I like making the joke when I'm showing rural properties to my buyers. I always say that I'm gonna have the sellers take their shit with them, right? Meaning I'm gonna have them pump out the septic tank, clean, pump, and certify the septic, right? It's a good one. I think these are kind of, you know, I use these to kind of help grow confidence in my buyers and sellers, though. If I'm showing real property and they know that I'm going to have that seller clean and certify the septic, I don't know if we all know, but it's actually required before closing to have a certification with the county registered. Me sharing that reminds the buyers, like, oh, he's looking out for us. He's going to do it. Well, do I technically do it? I don't. Right? Do I have to make sure that they do it? I don't, because it's standard practice. It's also something that I make sure that they know that I'll make sure that it is done, but it helps separate me. Existing agent. Anybody ask that question? Are you currently working with an agent?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
When I ask, I always ask, hey, are you currently working with an agent? And they say yes. What's my go-to question? Anybody remember? Oh my gosh.
Let me know if it work out.
No, I always say, hey, you're working with an agent? Yes, yeah, I have an agent right now. Great. What's their name? Is my question. Right? If I say, hey, oh my gosh, great, what's their name? Isn't a person. Right? I do it just to actually find out whether or not they do have an agent. You don't have a good relationship with the agent if you do. Oh my gosh, hey, no worries at all. Hey, I'd love to be an additional layer of service. I like knowing if they have an agent isn't just to see if they have that agent, but it's also to see kind of where they're at with wanting an agent too. No, I'm not working with anybody, you know, or you find out if somebody's an investor. What does every investor tell you if you ask if they're working with an agent?
They don't like working with agents. I got that this morning.
Well, I work with a bunch of them. If you bring me a property, I'd work with you too. Great. I'm one of your minion. I'm not working for you, dude or dudette. Right? I use this one just to identify kind of where they're at with an agent, but also where the possibility is of me actually becoming that agent. Oh no, I don't want to work with anybody. Right? Oh, I work with a lot of people. Right? Oh, actually, I don't have anybody helping me. Shoot, can I be that person? Right? I want to be their agent for sure. Anybody have any tricks with identifying or any kind of go-to phrases with asking if they're with an agent? Anybody not like asking if they have an agent? What happens if you don't ask?
You won't know.
Well, no. Right?
You might step on somebody else's toes and then get in trouble or waste your time. That's important to me.
I think that's the biggest piece for me is wasting my time. You know, I want to work with somebody who wants to work with me, not work for somebody who has no interest in working with me. I was out showing new builds, touring properties. The guy's out in Grand Junction, so he can't go with me. So I'm touring new builds for him. I'm checking him out. I'm sending him listings. I went and saw a property up in Thornton. And he said, I went up to Thornton at 2, got all the information for these new builds. I got an email from him around 3:30 and he says, oh, hey, I'm under contract on a property in Parker. What? How the heck did that happen? Thanks for the heads up, buddy.
Yeah.
Right. I think the wasting the time piece is probably the biggest one. You know, if you have a bunch of people and I'm not the only one, I mean, I lost the contract over the weekend. It sucked. Didn't change anything. I couldn't get back into it. I'm active in today's market, buyer or seller. I'm actually very familiar with our market these days. Can I send you some stats? Some stats and specifics for the areas that you are considering. I like that Akila's using that one. You know, I think just actually sending out the specific data. Let me see. I don't know if this is actually, I would check this out if you guys can. Right here. If you are a realtor, you have access to it. I don't know if it's just limited to realtors. I am a realtor, so I have access to it. But if you go in here, you can pull up any property. I mean, that's actually our office. I better pick a different one. But there's a lot of data that you can get from here. As far as creating a report, they've got a property report, seller report, a property flyer, mini property flyer evaluation, market activity, neighborhood reports, and school reports. The reports are pretty comprehensive and extensive. Sometimes they're like 50, 60 pages long, and it doesn't take me but 2 minutes to put the address into it. So I definitely like using this one right here.
What is it called?
RPR. I would definitely check it out.
Hey, Jared,
Yeah,
for some reason, I'm not seeing your screen.
did I kick it off?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
There you
not
go.
seeing.
We're back. It's right here, RPR.
RPR.
Oh,
Okay.
And then as far as it goes, here's the reports that they can pull. I mean, these are 50, 60 page reports, so they're pretty comprehensive. Here's an example of a market report. You know, they have very specific stats and data. Super helpful. Being active in today's market, reminding them of what's actually taking place. I share this stat with everybody. Every buyer that I have, I share this and I'll screenshot it and send it to them. Hey, look, we only got 500 new listings and there's 1,500 that went under contract. So if it seems like I'm putting the pressure on you, is it me putting the pressure on you or reminding you what's actually happening? Right? So I like Akila. I like that you brought that up though. Being active in today's market and then actually sharing the stats and the data with them. Is anybody a master negotiator? Oh, I've had a lot of success in negotiating the best terms and options in the contract that benefit you only. I really want to ensure that you're protected through the entire process. I think that reminding them that we are fighting and advocating for them specifically. I think sometimes, most of the time, clients don't even know what our responsibility is. They don't even know what side we work on. I went to showings the other day with a new client, and it was my first time meeting them. And it was actually the offer that we wrote at 660 and lost and missed it. But the whole time we're in the property, I had to say it 4 different times that I'm not the listing agent. I don't represent the seller. My hope is to represent you. Right? Okay, wait, so you're listing the property? No, I am not listing the property. I'm here to help you. Right? I'm reminding him through you know, ways that I negotiate, things that I want to include. That's on the sell side, things that I want to avoid when buyers come up. I think any way that we can remind them that we do the negotiating on their behalf is definitely helps separate us. It also, I think, it builds that advocacy. Anybody do anything different for kind of pitching that to people? I think I always like reminding people that I'm kind of like a big brother to them, right? I'm an advocate for you. I'm kind of your big brother. I'm here to protect you guys. Oh my gosh. Oh, you're not the listing agent. No, I'm still not the listing agent. Seller disclosures. I think it's something that I bring up, whether it's a buyer. I say this for my buyers. I fight for my buyers and always remind the seller's agent that they have a responsibility to disclose all the known issues in the home. Is that something that I actually do? No, but I want my buyers to know that I'm pushing to make sure that we get the disclosures, that we get all the information about the home. I think that that's another way that I fight and remind my buyers that, hey, I'm looking out for you guys. I'd hate for you to run any issues down the road, things that weren't disclosed up front. As far as it goes for my sellers, I say this, I've had a lot of success in the past when it comes to protecting my sellers from future issues with their buyers. I work hard to in helping protect you from buyers in the future by proactively avoiding them in advance. What happens if they don't disclose these items? What happens if a seller just decides that they don't want to say it? What if they tell me about some issues and don't want to disclose it? What do I have to do? I have to remind them, you have to disclose it. And not only that, I have to disclose it too.
Hey, Jared, can I ask you something about listing a home as a listing agent? Is there any way that you can make a mold disclosure? Because usually it's the company that does it. And, you know, I know I've actually had a client, as a listing agent, like 3 years ago, where the buyer came after them because of mold. They had this piece of plastic under the kitchen sink that I didn't even know that was there.
Right.
And it was kind of just to guard any water that comes down. And because of that, they found mold underneath it. They were able to sue my sellers. So ever since then, and you know, I know it says in the
Seller property disclosure.
seller's property disclosure, but that wasn't good enough.
Well, but we also have to, I mean, to be honest, it boils down to whether or not it was known. You know, they might have had the plastic there and they might have known that the leak was there, but they may not have actually known that the mold was there, right? You as the
Yeah.
agent didn't know. You know, if they never
Yeah.
lifted it, then it's not a known fact. It just, you know, so there's a,
But they were, you know, they settled. I mean, after like a whole year of just disputing it, finally they settled and they had to pay like basically 30,000 or something like that.
well, and I think that that's it is, you know, will they always win? I don't know. I mean, in our contract, you know, it always says that you're buying it as is, where is as is. You know, so you'd have to prove that the seller actually knew about the mold and that they did not disclose it. But it sounds like the sellers just didn't even want to go through it. They just wanted to settle and get out of it. But it might have been because they knew about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do kind of feel responsible even to this day because I think if I had a separate mold disclosure, it might have prevented a lot of stuff.
You know, I think instead of guessing, I think that that's where us just going through that disclosure with our sellers is probably more important than anything. You know, hey, let's go through this line by line, you know, over the phone or in face to face. You know, I think when I'm chatting with somebody in there and they kind of hesitate or they're, well, I mean, does this count? Yeah, that counts, you know? So I think helping them
Did you
fill it
go
out.
over the property disclosure with them? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely.
But you
Right.
don't do a separate mold disclosure because I see
I
it
wouldn't
above.
I wouldn't unless you know that there's mold. If you know that there is, then I would just disclose it up front, definitely. And I think there's actually a disclosure I think there might be an additional disclosure, a mold disclosure in CTME.
There is.
There is
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was.
no.
No?
I looked for it because every listing I have, I try to find. No, I have not been able to find one.
I-
CTME does not
Smart
have it.
contracts?
You know, I think maybe more importantly, I think that's where if they know that there's mold, they either disclose it on the disclosure or they just need to have it tested and then have that actual mold report given to the buyers. Hey, we actually had a mold company come out, they did a test, here's what it actually is, and here's what the solution is and the cost for repair, if they don't want to do it themselves. Here's the next little piece: state and national compliance and legal documents required. As a personal representative, I will complete and prepare all the legal documents required by the state, and help explain them to you in advance. I think usually, I think that's one of the biggest pieces. The reason I think we're beneficial is we understand what the contract says. We understand what's included in the contract. I want to make sure that they feel comfortable and confident that I'm actually pulling all this together and making sure to protect them along the way. Does any client or have many clients ever actually read all 16 pages? I've had a few, right? But I think most of it's is kind of over their head. It's a lot to take in. I think even just us as agents, it's over our head sometimes until we get quite a bit of experience. I like reminding them that we also have a compliance department. Hey, there is a 350 file fee. It's for 4 years of retention, minimum 4 years retention, and ensure that we're in compliance with the state. Oh my gosh, sounds great. Additional protection. Avoiding closing issues. One of my strengths is helping you avoid closing issues at the last minute. Sometimes we encounter things like document errors, mortgage delays, last minute requests, unclear titles, and issues during the final walkthrough, which I'll proactively avoid to help keep things smooth. And that's for a buyer or a seller. Do we ever run into a lot of these issues? No, but I think sometimes I bring them up. And do I say all of these things to every client? No. It's kind of a case by case. What happens if we don't? What happens if we, there's mortgage delays? That's all right. We'll push out your loan objection deadlines. If it's on the sell side, hey, that's all right. We'll just have to work hand in hand with the lender. All of these are more conversational pieces. These are for us to kind of build the confidence in our clients. I think the more confidence that I have usually with them comes from the things that I say and also the things that I'm doing to help them. Does anybody speak to seller concessions? As a buyer, what do we do to describe seller concessions? Are we getting seller concessions these days?
No.
Not usually, right? I called a new lead the other day. I called a new lead that came in and the property been available for 2 weeks. I'm fighting for appointment every time I'm talking to somebody. And I told her this. I was like, oh my gosh, the property's been available for 2 weeks. I'm willing to bet I could probably get you a price reduction or seller concessions to help cover some of your closing costs. Do I believe I can get that? Bless you, Akila. Do I believe that I can get the price reduction or the seller concessions? I don't know. But did it sound good on the phone and make the client feel like I was going to fight for him? Definitely. Right? So I think even though I know I might not get it, I might not have the chance to actually get them the seller concessions, I'm still bringing it up. If I've got somebody who's in a lease, hey, I can probably try and fight for some seller concessions to offset that lease break fee. Would you consider, are you willing to break that lease? I think that's some of the things that I say to be attractive. I'm always willing to do it. Does it mean that I always get it? No. But I think it's just more of the ways that I can speak to it. For sellers in regard to seller concessions, when we start encountering buyer offers, I want you to know I'll always be watching out for them and try, a lot of buyers basically sneak seller concessions in, which will reduce your net at the end. I think reminding them that I'm proactively looking for some of these elements and reminding them that they could be in the contract. Oh, wait, I didn't even think about seller concessions. I see that they gave us a price, but they also asked for 5,000 in concessions. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we could get seller concessions. I wish we were in those days. It's so sad. It's so sad.
I got some in August.
There you go. It wasn't that long ago. Well, here's the thing. This market didn't get crazy till like November, December, January.
Yeah.
December, January, February should be our slowest months. We should be able to get people in with concessions during these months. We can't even get them in with appraisal waiver 60,000 over ask.
Yeah.
Right. It's tough. It's a different market out there. So here's conversation pieces just for buyers specifically. Here's buyers and sellers. Still one last one is contract strategies and how they impact buyers and sellers. I mention these elements usually when I'm with my seller or when I'm with my buyers. Hey buyers, heads up, it's the first time we're meeting. We're encountering things what are as is clauses. When I wrote the offer just the other day, 60,000 over ask, we're walking through the property and she says, well, how much activity are you seeing on the property? Once again, I'm not the listing agent, so I don't know. Right. But I told her, I was like, if I was to guess, I'll bet this property goes over 650. She's like, really? I was thinking like, I think we were willing to pay the full price, the 600. I told her right off the bat, I was like, I'm willing to bet it goes over 650. And she wrote the offer for 660 at least. So I think it's proactively managing the expectations up front, you know, describing what escalation clauses are, what early acceptance bonuses are, post-occupancy agreements. I think most every seller needs a post-occupancy agreement unless they don't occupy the property. When you show the property and the sellers are in it, more than likely you're going to encounter a post-occupancy agreement. When do we not use a post-occupancy agreement? Anybody?
When the sellers don't want to remain at the property.
That's it. So if we on the day of closing is the day of possession, there's no post-occupancy needed. If the day of closing is Friday and occupancy is the possession is Saturday, you better have one for one day at least. Right? Who does it protect?
Buyers.
Your buyer. Right?
Yeah.
What happens if that one day you didn't get a post-occupancy agreement and the house burns down? Who's responsible for it? The buyer, right? Who should have been? The seller. The seller should have had a renter's policy. Should have had a liability policy. What happens if the seller gets hurt trying to move out? What if their mover gets hurt and they sue the property owner and it's not the seller? Anytime that possession doesn't take place at the day of closing, you have to have a post-occupancy agreement. Backup contracts, I like bringing up that one. Are we still seeing contracts fall out? Let's look. In the last 7 days, in the last 7 days, we had 137 properties back on the market. Can we show these? Sure, pull them up. They are.
What's the chance that they didn't already have other offers to go back to, though?
Yeah, it wouldn't have gone back up. It wouldn't have gone back on the MLS. They wouldn't have put it back on the market. They would have just left it. They would have left it pending. So I think this is something that we should be doing for our buyers each week, is watching this every day. Back on the. Well, I click here. Here's the 137 of them. If I go to maps, here they are. I can look in the area. This is the best way to get your people back under contract. It's less competitive. It's less attractive. I think if I was doing anything, I'd be shopping these every week. You know, you can't set your criteria, unfortunately, but you can definitely look at the area. There's not that many of them. Overwhelming. Are we bringing this up in advance? I think that's something that you definitely want to start talking to them about in advance. You know, bringing it up when we start writing offers is definitely not going to help. I bring it up the first time I meet you. I also bring it up just so you know that I know what I'm talking about. Wow, you know, when I met with my other agent, what, you got another agent?
Hey, Jared, can I ask you a question about how do you because I showed a house in Evergreen to my client that I've been showing for like 6 months.
Right.
It was an $800,000 house, beautiful house. It was worth 800, but we actually ran into this listing agent there as well because she was showing as well, and she said she had 4 offers.
Okay.
Highest offer was at 900,000. I mean, how do you go about that with your buyer? Because I mean, 100. How do you justify 100,000? And then, you know, and these buyers, they have to come up with a difference just in case it doesn't get appraised for 900,000.
Right.
So how do you go about that? How do you explain to them?
It's a simple conversation for me. I remind them that we're unfortunately, you know, we're chasing market value. And what's market value?
Who knows right now?
Market value is,
buyers are willing to pay, right?
that's 100%, exactly. So we're actually competing against market value, which is what a buyer is willing to pay. Is it appraised value? No. Is it assessed value? No. It's market value. Market value is nothing to do with appraised value, has nothing to do with assessed value. And I just remind them that we're competing against what other buyers are willing to pay. Right? I asked the question too, you know, for instance, you know, Keela has it at 800. If I call the listing agent and I find out that they've got offers to 900, I have to call my buyer and say, hey, do you want the property? Yeah, we really want it. Great. Here's what you have to do. You have to be at this level. Oh, we don't want to do that. Well, then you don't want the property. You know, we don't have to write at that point.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I'm all about saving my time, but I asked the big question. Well, do you want it? Yes. Great. Here's what you have to do. Oh, we don't want to do that. Well, then you don't want it.
Might as well show the property
Yeah.
around.
The husband brought up, because I had shown them a house in Morrison just a few months ago, and he's like, Akila, we should have bought that house in Morrison.
Oopsie.
I mean, this
Oopsie.
is a house that I told him, you know, I would buy this house if I had the money.
Yeah. Well, you know, here's the thing.
Listen to me.
It's an age-old tale. They have to lose something in order to get something. And every buyer's always lost something. They're like, oh, we should have got that one. I told you. But not only that, remember where the market's heading. I told you that it's only going to get worse. If you don't like the things now, you're not going to like more of them later. They're going to be more expensive later.
That's what's happened, yeah.
Yep. Conversation with buyers, hand-picked listings. I think that every buyer wants to know that we're actually hand selecting the listings for them. You know, if anybody caught Damien's presentation, he does concierge service where he actually goes through, looks at the listings that come through, and then hand selects them for him. I had a friend that I was helping for, and we've been friends since junior high. I showed her on Thursday. She was under contract, called me on Saturday and said, hey, I'm under contract on a property with another agent. What? Well, she sent me the property. I don't give a shit. Send me the property. I think that's when I realized I actually have to be involved. I have to handpick these properties. Hey, I proactively search for homes. Hey, I'll proactively search for homes for you and hand select them. Is that okay? Of course it is. They want you to do it. I like reminding them that I'm willing to do it. Jerry goes above and beyond. Well, I don't want to lose a client again. If I can lose a friend from junior high, I can lose any client.
I do that for all my active clients. I put them on favorite and I'll send them.
I BCC myself on all of the listings. So when they get an email in the morning with the listings, I get the email in the morning with the listings. It reminds me who to check in with, and it also lets me look at what they're looking at. Hey, I just noticed this one. Do you guys want to get out this weekend? It's usually the way that I help push for the appointment. Connect with the buyer's lender. Can I reach out to your lender and find out ways to save you time and money? Why do I want to connect with the buyer's lender?
You want to be their agent.
I want to be their agent. If I don't know the lender, what does the lender usually do?
Finds an agent, recommends an agent.
They recommend their preferred agent, right? Oh, hey, I've got a buddy, I've got a sister, I've got a friend. Hey, this is the person I would use. Do I want them doing that to me? No. So I think why I always reach out to the lender, or why I want to speak to your lender, is so that way I don't get poached and I can talk to the actual lender. Hey, hey, we're working together now. Don't do this to me, right? But I also use it on my buyer side is I can also help save them time and money. I just did this with my $1 million buyers, just went under contract. Me specifically speaking to yield spreads. Does anybody know what a yield spread is with lending?
No.
Anybody looked at a loan estimate sheet even for yourself? What's a loan estimate sheet from a lender? No. Does anybody know that a loan estimate sheet is actually required by law for a lender to give to an individual?
Yeah. So that they know what they're paying and how much.
Does anybody else know that it's actually legal for there to be variations of no more than 10% of costs and fees between their initial loan estimate and their closing costs? So they get a loan estimate and all of a sudden they start throwing extra fees. Bless you, Sarah. Start throwing in extra fees and extra costs that weren't in that initial loan estimate. It's illegal. Why do lenders not like to give loan estimate sheets?
Because then they have to stick to those rates, right?
Hey, right. That's exactly it. They don't like giving it because they don't want to commit to it. A yield spread is the difference between the initial rate and then also the APR, their final rate. Anybody notice? My initial rate was at 2.5, but my APR ended up at 3.25. How did it jump up 3/4 of a point? Well, that yield spread is how most lenders make money too. So a tight yield spread, if it's at 2.5 and we're looking at your APR at 2.6, that's a tiny spread. That's going to save you a lot of money. If you've got two lenders and you have two loan estimates and one's got a big spread and one has a tiny spread, well, that helps your buyer. Send me all the loan estimates that you get and let me look over them as well, is what I just did, right? I do it all the time. I remind them that I'm going to advocate for them. And I remind them that lenders don't want to give loan estimate sheets because they don't like committing to these things. Is it every lender? No. But is it some of them? Yes. Does it make my buyers feel like I'm protecting them? Well, I am protecting you. I'm trying to make sure that you get the best rates and options. Those yield spreads will save you tens of thousands if we can keep it tight. It'll cost you on the other side. MLS access and never a waste of time. I like this one in a sense that, hey, I'll send listings directly from the MLS to ensure you're seeing everything. If you see a home you like on any other online site, make sure to send it to me and I'll get you more information. It's never a waste of my time to basically help. It's never a waste of my time. Does anybody have a client who called the Zillow agent because they didn't want to waste their time? Right? No good. Waste my time. Send me the address. I'll look it up. Even if it's a for sale by owner, waste my time. Let me call them. Right? I want them to know that it's not a waste of my time. If you see something on another site, make sure you send it to me. Let me do some research for you. I'd rather do that than lose them. Does every buyer want to know that we can get off-market listings? I think so. Hey, can I send you off-market properties as well? I belong to a large agent network and come across listings sometimes before they hit the market. How often does that happen? That sometimes. It's not that it's not true. It just doesn't always happen. But if I find one, I'm definitely going to tell you. But does that not help them think that I'm being a little bit more proactive, doing things non-traditionally? That's why I say it usually. Remember, all of these things are
those, Jared. How do you get off-market listings? Are those the
those
coming
would be
soon?
that would be from our peer group too. Let's say one of us know that we have something coming up and we wanted to share it between the group. What if it's me knowing that my neighbor wants to sell, right? And hasn't picked anybody, or I mean, there's no one way for me to actually get them. It's just something that I use to help kind of grow confidence in my buyers. Hey, I'm looking everywhere for you. Oh, I'd love to find an off-market opportunity. I'm actually always looking for off-market opportunities myself. No cost to helping my buyer. Hey, are you aware that there's no cost for my service? I'm actually paid by the seller to represent you and protect your best interests. Remember, I'm the advocate. I'm an advocate for you, and it's my responsibility to support you through every step of the process. I think most buyers don't know how we get paid. The same showings that I had the other day where the girl kept thinking I was the listing agent. Hey, look, I represent you. I take care of you. But not only that, you don't have to pay me. I come at no cost to you. Right? Titan One Realty Group charges a $350 admin fee, not you guys. So when it's in your exclusive right, hey, I still come at no cost. But yes, there is additional costs, right? But you can say there's no cost with having me help you as a buyer. I like reminding them that I come to you at no cost. Oh my gosh, great. I was wondering what it was going to cost me. Most people just don't know if there is or isn't cost associated with it. Property tours and pre-inspections. While we tour properties, I'll be sure to point out any of the major defects I find in the homes we visit. I want to ensure we find a property that best fits, that's a best fit for you and doesn't lead to costly repairs down the road. Once again, this goes back to me, letting them know that I'm kind of their big brother. Hey, when we're walking through these properties, I'll make sure to point out any of the flaws and defects, right? And I kind of do this more silently, where I kind of walk through and, oh, hey, did you notice that? Oh, hey, did you see that? Right? I don't bring up issues. I bring up items of consideration. I'm definitely not trying to pick a property apart. And then I also remind them that we can ask for them to repair them. Hey, if you like the house, let's get it. And then let's ask the sellers to fix all these things. That inspection review. Hey, when we find the property you like or love, are you okay with me reviewing the inspection report to ensure we're asking the seller to correct any major items that may be of concern? I mean, they usually always have me review the report. I need to review the report even just to pull together the inspection objection. But I want them to know, remember, these are things that help them feel more confident in the process. Oh, okay, we're going to get an inspection. Great, I was wondering about that. Yeah, not only that, but I'm going to make sure that we get it taken care of. Conversation with sellers. This is just stuff that I say with my sellers. Days on market and showings to contract. We brought that up with InfoSparks. I can definitely send you the average days on market. What do we find from just these two stats alone? Anybody? What's the benefit to my sellers to know that just these two stats? They want to know what purchase price, what the sales price is going to be, and then these two stats are super imperative. What do they tell us?
How long it'll be before their home is sold?
How long it'll be before it goes under contract, right? How many days on market? 7 days on market. And not only that, we're going to have 10 showings to contract, meaning we're going to have 10 showings in 7 days. It might fall on one day. It might fall on, might be one every other day, 2 every other day. This kind of helps us anticipate what we're going to see. It's going to take us about this long, and we're going to see this many people come through. If we do opening weekend and we have twice the number of showings, we're expecting 10 to a contract, and we have 20, 30 showings, how many contracts should we expect? I think that's why I bring it up. If I'm expecting 10 showings to one contract, and we get 30 showings in the first weekend, we should expect 3 contracts at least, right? Me speaking to it proactively helps them, and I don't even have to speak to it. I can actually share the actual stats and data right here, InfoSparks. I can give them these. Share right here. I can share the actual stats and data. I'm not guessing. I can share the specifics.
And Jared, if you share it as a live, they can actually go, hover over and do that.
Right. So you can share it as a live link or a static link. You can share it as PDF, embedded, CSV, a lot of options. I think I think sales price and the days on market and showings to contractor are one of the things that I touch on every time. I think it's also something that most agents don't actually do. I mean, I think days on market is something that's pretty generally practiced, but showings to contract is not something I think that's commonly used. Pre-listing walkthrough. I'd love to visit your home and help guide you on some of the areas or items that should make you more money when it comes to selling. I can definitely help you save time and money as well for unnecessary repairs and enhancements. If somebody says, oh, well, I don't want you to come over yet. I'm still working on getting things done. Actually, you probably want me to come over. I can help guide you. Sometimes the things that you think need done don't need to be done. It's also a way that I fight for getting that appointment, just to get in the door. Selling above list price. I want you to know that my goal is always to push the purchase price higher than our current list price. Does any seller want us not doing that? I don't think so. But I think speaking to it ensures that they know that we're working towards that. I can definitely help. Where was I? Right here. Basically, once I have multiple buyers, I can usually push it higher. If I only have one buyer, can I push that price higher? Not usually. There's no competition. But I think reminding them that I'm going to be pushing that helps them feel better about it. Hey, remember, this is our list price. This isn't going to be necessarily our sold price. If I can get multiple buyers, interested, I'm usually really good at getting them competitive and pushing the price up higher. Comp search for sellers. Hey, can I set a custom property search and send you properties that have recently sold or gone under contract in your community? Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, definitely send me properties in my community. I'd love to see them. I think it's something that I can do that separates myself, something that maybe other agents aren't doing. Do we all have showing schedules and feedback. I like reminding them that they get to pick that. You know, hey, once we're active, I'm going to manage all the communication and traffic, but it's also going to be based on the schedule that you pick. What days, what times, what are the things that you don't want? You got to get the dogs out. Is there a better time for us to actually make all this happen? I might encourage you to leave for the whole weekend on opening weekend. I also proactively seek feedback from them all. When we use showing time, they actually proactively seek the feedback. But can I also make phone calls? Definitely. I like reminding them that I'm going to chase the feedback and share it with them as well. Remember, all of these things are things that I say and I do to help separate myself. And the more that I touch on, the more confidence I think that I end up getting from my buyers and my sellers. Oh, nobody did this. I think all of us do showing schedules and feedback, but us speaking to it, I think is what helps separate us. MLS, listing and online syndication. We do data share in the MLS. Hey, most agents only have access to one MLS when it comes to marketing their home, right? I showed you guys where we have access to Denver, Northern Colorado, Steamboat, and Central Colorado. I think that if you told your clients that and told your listings, like, hey, I'm actually going to ensure that you're on 4 MLSs, as well as syndicating to a handful of other sites like Zillow, Trulia, and Realtor.com. Those syndication channels are already available to us. But speaking to it, I think, is what maybe will help separate us. Oh, I'm going to put you in the Denver MLS along with 3 other MLSs. I belong to 7 MLSs, these 4 and 3 others, right? That's what helps separate me. I got a listing the other day. I don't know how I end up getting as many as I do, but I end up helping a lot of divorcing couples sell their properties. And I usually end up winning the listing because I have to get both parties to want me. Usually one has somebody they want and the other wants me to represent them, to where when I send out my little email of what's different about me, it includes that I'm going to list on 7 MLSs. Ask your other agent how many MLSs are they going to put you on, right? I want to distinguish myself. I want to stand out. I want to be picked hands down above anybody else. My client database. I can actually run your property through my own client database, and help find and help you potentially save the co-op fee, right? If I end up finding the buyer, can I represent both people, the buyer and the seller? You could, but I would not do it. Take care, have an exclusive right with your sellers, and then treat the buyer as a customer. That way you don't owe any responsibility to them. I'm going to jump into sync real quick. I do this on my listing presentations. If you go into properties, you can do it proactively. Up here it says add a pocket listing, meaning you can add a property for the listing appointment that you're going on, right? If you go right here, let's say this is the one that I just added. This is my pocket listing. Right here it says buyer matches. If I click this button, it'll cross-reference the database, and it'll actually bring up the specific people that you have in your database. Even if it's one person, you still have the opportunity. If you have one person, you don't have to show them this. You can at least just tell them, hey, I'm going to cross-reference it. They're working really hard. Come on, spit it out. I think this is something that I think helps separate me. Okay, let's do another one.
Jared, where did you go on that one?
Right here it says properties. Once you click on this tab, it'll bring up all of these.
Okay.
And these are all from the MLS. Adding the pocket listing is up here at the top. Add pocket listing. I have no idea why this isn't working. It'll usually, there it is. Here we go. So it'll bring up, and it's typically 100 list, at least 100 people if you have them. And if there's more than 100, it won't bring up more. But I can also click all of them and view all of these people, right? Here's where it says match factors. The score is 86%, but the match factors include looking in Evergreen to Castle Rock, Sedalia, 3+ beds, 2 baths, 719 to 1.3 million. I think speaking to this definitely helps separate me. Cross-referencing my client database.
RE Colorado has that too, though, right? It's the, what is it called?
Reverse prospecting, but you actually have to have it in the system, and you can definitely reverse prospect. So there's two ways you can do it. You can do it that way through Already Colorado reverse prospecting, and then also through your own. But I think speaking to it once again is what will distinguish you. Everybody else may not be mentioning this specific item. Agent network. With your permission, I always share your listing with my extensive real estate agent network. This always helps you grow traffic and exposure to your property. I think the reason I bring this up isn't because I use all of these techniques every time, but a lot of the listings that I always go on, they want to know what I'm doing that's different. I also ask the question, well, hey, what do you think it's going to take for me to sell your house? What is it that you want me to do to sell your house? I don't remember who it was, but somebody in our group, I want to say it was Teresa, lost a listing because she didn't have a sign in the yard. Does the sign being in the yard, who does that actually benefit? Me. It benefits me. That sign in the yard benefits me, not you as the seller. But the seller thought it was so important that they actually dropped her as the listing agent because she didn't have the sign in the yard fast enough. What? That's ridiculous. I think it's more imperative that we identify what it is that they want, but also speak to all of the other elements as well. Proof of funds and lender checks. I think this is something that I speak to as well. Hey, when we start getting buyer interest in the property, I'll always ensure that we get proof of funds statements from proof of funds statement or a lender letter with all of our offers. Are you okay with me contacting their lenders to ensure that they are in a good financial position? Of course, they're okay with it. But they also then are like, oh man, okay, so you're going to check in with everybody. Of course I am. I'm going to make sure everybody actually is prepared to do this. We're not going to go under contract with somebody who is not prepared to actually close on the deal. Oh, wow. I love that you're going to do that for me. Remember, I speak to all these things not because I do it every time. I do this, but I speak to it so that way they know in advance that I'm going to be doing these things. I end up getting the listings and I end up getting my buyers because I talk about a lot of these elements that probably I don't go walk through the property with buyer and just like look around. I'm usually throwing out a lot of little nuggets along the way. When I go to my listing presentation, I touch on all of these elements, and this ends up being my listing presentation. This is me just talking about these elements.
Nice.
And this is not injection, this is supposed to be inspection. Strategies used by buyers. Most buyers try to beat up sellers when it comes to inspection items. Are you okay with me telling them that you're not in a physical and financial position to make any corrections to the property and that the buyer is purchasing the property as is, right? And I say this specifically, that you're not in a physical or financial position. What does that mean? They're not willing to.
Able to do any of the repairs.
Right. Oh my gosh, thank you. We do not want to go through an inspection and get beat up on it. Well, that's my approach, is to tell them that you're not in a physical or financial position. You're purchasing the property as is. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Jared. Remember, all these things are proactive. I don't say these things once we're in the middle of it. I do all these things in advance. I do this at the listing presentation, and then I also do it as we start going through the process. Hey, we're going to start showings. Remember, I'm going to be ensuring that we find somebody who has good proof of funds, as well as I'm going to make sure that they know that they're purchasing it as is. I'm going to encourage the as is clause. I think this is kind of one, that's imperative. Don't forget to ask for the business. I do this full time, right? And this is how this is how I feed my kids. I leverage having kids. Hey, I do this full time, and this is how I feed my family. I'd love to know that if I start working today, that I can count on your commitment, right? Will you pick me to be your agent? Right? Did I do that with the guy this weekend that ended up going under contract? Apparently not well enough. He went under contract without me. Hey, I actually need you to stick with me. Can I ask for your partnership in this? I'm going to start working today and put how many hours into this. Please don't let me down. If I let you down, you can definitely walk away. But at least stick with me. Hang in there with me.
Hey, Jared, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How quickly do you have a buyer sign the exclusive?
I don't. Not until we write an offer. But I say things like this, though. I want you to know that I do this full time, and that's how I feed my family. I need your commitment. I'm going to start working today. What I need to ask though is you don't have to sign an agreement with me. When we start writing offers, we definitely need to have that together, but that's more of your permission than anything. Remember, there's no obligation. Even if you have that exclusive right and they want to terminate, they can. They're actually in the power position. And
Yeah.
I make sure that they know that. If I drop the ball, you don't have to work with me, but that's not my goal. My goal is to get you referrals. My goal is to do such a great job that you want to give me everybody you know. I think asking for the business is one of the biggest pieces, right? When it comes to my sellers, I encourage them to meet with other agents. Why do I encourage my sellers to meet with other agents? Because they're probably not talking and speaking to specific things like this. Hey, I encourage you to meet with other agents. Find out how many MLSs they'll put you on. I'll bet it's 1. I'm going to put you on 7 and syndicate to 650 additional websites. So you ask those questions. What was that, Ella?
We all have access to those 7 MLSs?
No, you guys have access to these 4 through RE Colorado. If you wanted, you could join the rest of them. Tina's in Grand Junction, so that's why I'm in Grand Junction. I'm in Pueblo, I'm in Southern Colorado, and I'm in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Right. You would just have to pay the monthly fees for them, right?
Mhm.
So you can be in as many as you want, but speaking and knowing that even just being in RE Colorado gets you 4, I would at least make sure that they know I'm going to put you in 4.
Yeah.
Probably nobody else is speaking to it. And I showed you where it was at.
Mhm.
I think all of this right here, these are the other 4 or the other 3. I think all of this is really what the reason I do it is to distinguish myself. And the reason I ask for the business is I don't want to lose it. It sucks losing a deal, right? And especially if it's something that I can control. If I'm speaking to all of these things along the way, it only grows their confidence in me to actually be that representative, to be the person that gets picked. Why do I want to do all this every time? Is so I don't have to go keep finding more people. I want to find more people, but I want to close them. I don't want to find them because I'm losing them. How come nobody picks me? Well, you're probably not speaking to it. Are you opening doors and walking around aimlessly? Or are you opening doors and speaking to elements? Deb, you laugh. I think other agents are doing it. Right? Don't be mute, be interactive. Make it fun. It doesn't have to be stressful. I don't bring these things up in a scary way. I bring them up in a confident way. Hey, when we do this, we're going to encounter this and I got your back. Right? I do it as a big brother. I'm here to protect you. I'm here to protect you against all of these things that we're going to encounter. I'm going to remind you up front all of these elements that we have to include in our offers these days. If the first time I bring it up is when we start writing offers, do I have a good chance of actually getting you to agree to some of these things? An appraisal gap. What's an appraisal gap? Damn it, I should have brought this up earlier. We need to turn this in like right now. It's been active for seven minutes. We have to write the offer yesterday, right? The earlier I can bring up these elements, the better. I think love letters is something that I still definitely practice. As a listing agent, we're not supposed to give them to our sellers, but as buyer's agent, we can do whatever we want that helps our buyers, right? It's the seller's agent's responsibility to not hand these over, but if they do, it might help your buyer. In this market, I need my buyers to get picked, even if that means that they have to be picked for an emotional reason. Oh my gosh, it's a cute little family. We want our home to go to a cute little family, right? I'd rather put it all out there than keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. Was any of this helpful?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Jared.
Very much.
I'll email it out, and share it with everybody. I think that it's I think that I incorporate all of these things not because they are used every time, but because they might be used every time. I bring up all of these things because I want you to know that I'm already proactively watching and monitoring these things if we encounter them along the way. The more that I speak to all of this, the more confident you feel that I'm actually capable and able to do what it is that I'm saying that I'm doing. If we keep losing out on opportunities and we're not actually utilizing some of these techniques, I can tell you that. Well, hey, remember I told you we needed to go in as is. We lost it because we didn't go in as is. Oh, you did, Jared. Well, I guess we got to better do it next time, right? Hey, we have some money to do an appraisal gap. You didn't want to do it last time. I suggested it. You didn't want to do it. Should we do it next time? Ah, we should. You keep telling me it, Jared. I'm doing this so that way I'm growing confidence in my ability and me as their representative. But at the end of the day, they want to get the property. You know, this is about them building wealth for their family. When's a good time to buy? Yesterday. When's the next best time to buy? Today. Any thoughts, comments, questions, wishes, hopes?
Hey, Jared, you mentioned that at a listing presentation, you kind of just go over those things that you just did. Do you also have a listing presentation?
I don't take things. I don't print stuff. I go and usually have a conversation. I don't like printing things, right? I don't know. I just not my thing. But also what I do on the listing presentation is I go away with homework, right? Hey, can I ask for your commitment? I'm going to start working for you. It sounds like I need to get this, and this together for you now. Me bringing that presentation doesn't always have all the answers in it, right? So me printing it ends up not being that beneficial, but me speaking to all the things that we've just chatted about makes them like, oh, wow, I actually don't remember anything that you just said, but you said a lot of great things, right? I want to blow somebody away. I don't want them to be like, well, we're going to keep looking around. I hope you look around. And when you do, I hope that they say all the same things that I did. And if they don't, pick me, right? So I don't bring stuff, A, because I don't want to print it. B, it's not usually necessary. And C, a lot of the things that I want to share with you are kind of more specific to your particular situation.
Sounds
Good morning, Mary. Well, if you guys don't need anything, anybody have any questions?
Really quick, the as-is clause, would that have protected the seller in the mold situation?
No.
No.
And an
okay.
as-is clause, depending on how it's written, my as-is clause usually always says, buyers willing to accept the property as is with only health and safety items being considered. You know what that means? Nothing. It means you're still going to get an objection from us, right? So I think that if we actually waive the whole inspection objection and take that even out, can we still terminate if we don't like it? Totally. So it doesn't actually protect. Disclosing helps protect the seller, but if the seller doesn't disclose and doesn't tell the buyer, they're still at risk. Still at risk. Anybody else? Any comments, thoughts? That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
Is
Thank
that
you.
all, Jared?
I'll keep going. Stop it. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Jared. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.